Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Really delighted to see everyone here today, and very excited to be with you to mark our Founders Day today. So this school was founded 225 years ago, and I'm just really pleased to be here with everyone. We're going to start with a feature that's going to commemorate that history. So hit the space bar. Hit it one more time.
On November 22nd, 1797, Dr. Nathan Smith, a prominent Upper Valley physician, gave the first medical lecture at Dartmouth College. Little did he know that the medical school he was founding would have such a profound effect on science, the practice of medicine, and countless human lives. Even in its early years, Dartmouth's medical school saw many firsts and innovations. From the opening of the nation's first building solely for medical education, the first clinical use of X-ray in the nation, to the first black graduate of a U.S. medical school, Dr. Samuel Ford McGill, class of 1839. In its second century, the medical school's faculty continued to introduce new life-saving innovations, including the development of cancer immunotherapy, which has added hundreds of thousands of life years to cancer patients around the world. In 1996, the groundbreaking Dartmouth Atlas of Healthcare was published, the first comprehensive study of variations in healthcare in the U.S. Now on its third century of education and innovation, the Geisel School of Medicine's impact is felt globally, with new discoveries, including those that made most COVID-19 vaccines possible, saving millions of lives. To lay a strong foundation for its future, Geisel has developed a 5-year plan that was crafted by and for our community. This plan reflects our aspirations to be a values-driven leader in education, research, and professional practice. Guided by the goals and values that our community has articulated, and building on a strong financial foundation, our school will distinguish itself as being the most cohesive, welcoming, and collegial of medical schools, committed to nurturing the professional and aspirational successes of our students, staff, and faculty, relying upon our institutional core values of community, excellence, inclusion, innovation, and integrity, to guide our growth and investment priorities in our people and programs. The strategic goals presented in this plan will guide major advances in our education and research programs and enhance support to our faculty in professional practice. Geisel's strategic plan will ensure that America's fourth oldest medical school continues to contribute major advances that have improved human health and systems of healthcare, train outstanding physicians, scientists, and public health professionals, provide outstanding clinical care to our community, and serve as a bedrock of research and innovation at Dartmouth.
Pretty good, huh? Yeah. You know, when I saw the preview of that video, I was really filled both with pride and with inspiration, and pride knowing that, like, I'm part of that history, you know, and everyone here is part of that history, and you know, we get to stand on the shoulders of a lot of brilliant people that have come before us in the past couple centuries, and inspired knowing that I'm also contributing to that, and in fact, everyone, and so many familiar faces here, each one of you I know is actually making your contribution to our future, and in fact, you are the shoulders on which future generations are going to stand. So it's a remarkable story that we have here from this small community. We have the impact that we're making is pretty amazing. We're taking this moment to recognize the strategic plan on Founders Day for a few reasons, and it's really important because the plan we have built, that you have built, that we are working towards is one that's going to propel the growth of our school in the future. And so So marking this on the founding day is actually, I think, really appropriate and important. Just as a reminder, just to bring people up to speed, you all know who I am, we don't need that. You know, we started this work over a year ago. It was really deliberate to engage the community in bringing forward ideas, in talking openly about what we can do as a community to build the school. It was a process where we were deliberate in engaging faculty and students and staff in helping to frame these ideas for our future. This was just a timeline of some of the events that led to this. This is a diagram. I think you've seen this before, just the numbers of stakeholders and the different places in which we engaged our community. And in addition to what you see here, there was the kickoff meeting last year. There were over 250 people that participated in that. And as we put the draft written document of the plan out a few months ago, over 450 individual people downloaded that and took part in reading that and provided 100 comments from over 100 people. So it's truly been an inspiration for me to see all of this coming forward from all of you. And through this process, I'm going to come back to this one, sorry. Kim's looking at me, what are you doing? Through this process, I think one of the most important features of this that came forward was having this all guided by inherent vision and values that our community hold dear. And the values of community and excellence, inclusion, innovation, and integrity have been infused into each part of the plan that you will hear more about today. Overall, the plan is going to focus on several large domains, and you're going to hear about each one of those today. We've invited different individuals to talk about the specific areas. But at the core, there's several that are really important to think about at a high level. One is, there's a major theme throughout all of this about how we support our people and how through this plan we can better nurture their success. And that is success regardless of where they are in the organization. Student success, staff success, faculty success. And also within this is a real commitment to creating an environment that is welcoming to everyone and that where everyone will feel a sense of belonging. I think that's incredible how our community has come together around that. Another major theme you will see throughout this is in representing these values that you see on the slide is a way of building communications to better tell our story. And communications both internally, how do we talk to one another? How do we inform each other what we're doing? How do we build better teams? And externally, how do we tell people the good stories we're doing? We've had a remarkable history and we have a remarkable future. And so we can tell those stories in a really strong way. There's contemplation of growth of the research enterprise and in creating a better and stronger support system for the overall research enterprise. Likewise, there's contemplation of enhancing our programs to support student development and student growth, as well as to enhance and commit to a really interesting idea around interprofessional education for our learners. And then finally, supporting new growth is going to have to come hand in hand with the design and building of new facilities to support our new programs. And this is a particular topic that's gaining a lot of attention externally, I will share with you. But it's something that I think is really woven into this in a beautiful way. So I'm going to pause and take a breath for just a moment. And I just want to step back, and I think it's important that everyone knows that these are big goals. And doing all of this and coming out at the other end of all of this is going to fundamentally transform our school in the way in which we work together and in the way in which we support each other. And I think the important question is why now? And I think that what people need to start putting their arms around and embracing is the fact that we have all worked together. Is my time in the dean's office, we worked together to put ourselves on a financial footing in a way that we can now support this type of discussion, we can support these ideas, and we can support this type of growth. So why now is because we're able to actually do this together as a community. We don't have constraints of coronavirus like we had before, so we're able to do things more freely and more in person. What's very important for everyone to know is that I don't ask you to do this alone. These are big goals, and I'm really excited about this, but nobody should feel like they're taking this task on alone. We recognize that we're going to have to bring extra resources to help make this work. I'm very sensitive to the workload everyone carries right now, and how can you add more? And I want people to feel like this is a work of love that they can participate in and not something that's burdensome. So we can bring extra resources to help you. So this will be a team effort for all of us. And lastly, I think as we begin implementing steps towards these goals, we're identifying champions who are going to help lead each of these domains that you'll see presented today. And the champions are going to seek co-champions from our community. We're going to have some others involved in helping to lead this. And they're going to engage stakeholder groups in their different domains. It's really important that we bring everyone along in these different domains to help see them succeed appropriately. One of the things I realize is that within each of these goals, the pace at which they are performed and we achieve success is going to be different for each one of these because they're inherently different in what they're trying to do. So for each goal, each of the champion and co-champions that are leading this, they're going to build a plan, they're going to build a way to see the path forward for how to achieve these goals. They're going to identify resource needs and where the Dean's Office can, in service to you in building this, can help you achieve these goals. So these are big goals. This is really exciting, but I don't want people to feel overwhelmed by what's coming at you. And you should know that the Dean's Office is here in support and in service to helping you reach these goals. And I think one of the most important things is that everything that you see here today originated from our community. And so this is your plan, and I'm most excited to help you reach the goals that are expressed in your plan. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Nick, and he's going to talk about what? Oh, I got to go back one slide. Yes, Nick's reminding me. So the good news is we've actually already achieved some of the initiatives on some of these goals. So we're already off to a fast start. And some of the things that you'll see here are both on the resourcing side as well as the personnel side in what we've already started doing. On the resource side of things, we've expanded funding and staff and resources for our medical education program in the DICE office, in faculty affairs and human resources in the advancement office. We've expanded resources for mental health. That includes both for students as well as for staff and faculty. We've been opening new facilities, renovating and identifying and renovating spaces as needed and opening new spaces. We have just recently appointed a new Associate Dean for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and some of her staff are here today from the DICE office. I can't see them. There they are. There's Myra and Feroz. We've also added many new positions for student-facing leadership that were badly needed in support of medical education. So the Associate Dean for Assessment, Quality, and Accreditation, Paul Weisberg is here. Paul, raise your hand. There he is. Associate Dean for Student Success, Associate Dean for Medical Student Research, for Career Advising, and the Director of Geisel Learning Environment. I don't know that I see any of those individuals here, so can't call them out. But and we are in the middle of a search for a new Senior Associate Dean for Foundational Research. So we actually have a running start on this, so it's really exciting to see that we've already launched and got things started. So I'm excited to bring this forward. I hope you share the excitement. We're going to have the co-champions come forward and talk about each of their areas and their goals, and then I'll have a little wrap up at the end. Kim will do a wrap up, and then we'll enjoy some refreshments. So thank you all for joining us today. Nick?
All right, So we've come through a very long process to build our strategic plan document, and we're here on the threshold getting ready to actually launch. As you just heard, we've already done a lot of work already in support of our strategic plan, but this really does mark the launch of implementation. And it's important that everybody understands that we put a lot of thought into how we will do this. And so that, I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about the how are we going to create a structure that enables us to achieve our goals. We put a lot of thought into this, thinking about how can we minimize administrative burden as much as possible, create the appropriate feedback loops and proactive communication channels so that everybody's kind of aware of where we're at and where we're going. How can we enable the best and most effective decision-making as we move forward, and importantly, continues to engage our community, because this plan is our plan. And so we have to achieve it together. So centrally, what we have created is an implementation oversight framework with a work group called, we're calling it the Implementation Work Group, which consists of Dean's Office leadership and the champions that Dean Compton has already mentioned. There will also be co-champions as part of that, and this group really serves to monitor progress on the strategic plan, communicate that progress, identify overlaps and opportunities in the work that we're doing, prioritizing and sequencing the work, gathering and reviewing metrics toward progress, and ensuring continued community engagement in the work. All of the work that occurs across the school will feed back into the implementation work group to help enable the work group to make adjustments and continue to make sure that we're making progress. The plan is for this group to meet monthly, you know, we'll hear a little bit more about this later, but we will be soliciting nominations for co-champions for each of these goals. So if those in the audience are on Zoom, make sure that you pay close attention, because that will be part of this presentation, how to nominate folks for that. And then it's also worth noting that we have dedicated support in Kim Valson, the strategic plan project manager. And so, you know, she has expertise in this, is able to provide support not only to the implementation work group, but also to our champions as they build their initiative work groups and things like that. But again, you're going to keep hearing this because it continues to be important. It's been important to Dean Compton throughout this entire process that this is a community-driven effort, that we continue to engage the community and leverage our community. The thing that's great about Geisel is we have all of the expertise and skills within the people at the school to achieve our goals. And so this framework that we've built is designed to leverage that. We have an implementation work group. Our champions and our co-champions are part of that group. Those individuals will be charged to coalesce work groups with responsible parties, members of our community that have the appropriate expertise to start building work plans in pursuit of those initiatives and ultimately our goals. I'll spend just a couple minutes to get a little more granular on the role of the champion and the role of the responsible parties, because the names are important in terms of the structure. I won't read the slide to you, but the things that are important about our champions are that, again, they serve as the leader for the respective goal. They have oversight and purview over the initiatives that are feeding into each one of those goals. They're coalescing the right people, getting the right people in the right place in the right time to talk about each one of those, to build the work plans, and to help and identify barriers and challenges, bring those to the work group so those can be discussed. They'll also identify responsible parties, individuals who will be the leads for these different respective initiatives. Those responsible parties will not be alone. There will have to be people that are involved in all of these projects that are doing a lot of the tactical work. And as Dean Compton mentioned, we're being mindful of the burden that this imposes on people as they take up this work. We want to be successful, so we have to account for that. So hopefully everybody leaves knowing that we want to continue to put focus on that, making sure that we're resourced appropriately to be successful in these areas. The role of the team members and the responsible parties are really doing the day-to-day work in support of our initiatives and our long-term goals. It's the sum of all of that work that in 5 years and beyond, we will have realized the vision that we've laid out and that you saw in the video at the beginning. So we've talked about goals, initiatives, and tactics, and hopefully that's clear now, but just to make sure that everybody understands, we have champions and co-champions that aligned against each strategic goal. Within each one of those, there are initiatives, and those initiatives will have responsible parties, members from the community that take on leadership for those different initiatives, people who have the appropriate expertise and background for that, and then again, we'll continue to engage the community in the day-to-day work around those things. The tactical work is short-term work that builds into our strategic initiatives, which subsequently build into our strategic goals, and you have some examples there. So these are the strategic goals as outlined in the strategic plan document. It's worth noting, I think it makes sense based off of everything that we've said, that central in our goals is promoting Geisel's values to enhance our sense of community as we do things like increasing and celebrating diversity, strengthening integration, diversifying and enhancing our educational programs, advancing well-being, health equity, and driving growth in our research. Central to all of that is the community and continuing to foster that community. So, having just preliminary, I've introduced the goals. We're going to now shift to inviting our gold champions to come up and talk about those and sharing some of the initiatives that we put into the plan. And actually, I'm remembering now, I'm actually going to go through goal 1. So, sorry, you get to hear me talk for another couple of minutes. So the first goal, we touched on it, is promoting Geisel's values to enhance our sense of community. And the initiative here, it's fairly broad. There's a lot of work to do within this initiative. Intentionally cultivate a values-driven Geisel culture that permeates daily activities and communications. There's a lot of work to do there, but it starts at the top with, as we're making decisions within the Dean's office and across the organization, thinking about our values of community, integrity, and things like that. How are the decisions that we're making, how do our values apply to that? Are we being consistent with our values and the way that we're approaching the work that we do? And so there will be more to follow on this goal as all the others as we develop the work plans, so stay tuned for those. And we will be reaching out to members of the community to take part in the work that we'll do within this initiative. I'll be working with Dean Compton on this as he is the champion. We'll have a co-champion, so if somebody's really passionate about this, hopefully you're paying attention to this and all the other goals. And with that, I will turn it over to Jerome Wilcox, who is our Director of Inclusive Excellence, here on behalf of Dr. McBride. So please, Jerome.
Take this off so you can hear me. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. As you can see, our goal is to increase and celebrate diversity across Geisel, dismantling structural barriers to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and that's with a big B. If you haven't noticed by now, Dr. McBride is a mover and a shaker, and the reason she's not standing before us today talking about this is because she's been out for the last few months doing what? Recruiting. She's very intentional about what it is that she's trying to do. She's right now out at HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities, recruiting, not only looking for students, but faculty and staff. So I say all that to say, how do we accomplish this goal? Well, it's right here before you. I won't read all the circles to you. However, but this is our inclusive excellence framework. The School of Medicine stands firmly committed to champion diversity and inclusion as a core value central to its mission. So this is more, as I think Dean Compton said it in the open. I say every time he says something, I say he's stealing my speech. This is more than a short-term project or a narrow initiative. This is comprehensive approach requires a fundamental transformation of the school's culture by enabling and practicing inclusion in every effort, aspect, and level of the institution. What does that mean? That means we need each one of you. It's a partnership. We cannot do it alone. You could put 50 people in our office and we still couldn't do the work that's necessary to change this campus to an inclusive excellence community. It takes each and every one of you alongside us to make change. So I'm going to thank you in advance for all of the partnerships that we're about to make and the ones that we've already created. The goal is to make inclusion a norm and is implemented and practiced. It should be a norm. No one should feel like they don't belong here. Everybody should find a sense of self. And if you don't, I challenge you to stop by our office and let's see how we can partner to bring it to light. How can we make you feel a sense of belonging here at the Geisel School of Medicine? Now, the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, or the DICE office as we're known, we provide coordinating and oversight and leadership of the medical school's diversity and inclusion program and lead schools' efforts to build a diverse faculty and inclusive environment that values and respects the contributions of all members of this community. Some of the programs, how we've been doing it thus far. The office has been running with the Urban, Global, and Royal Health Scholars Program, the affinity groups for students, disability, the Asian Pacific Island, the Latino Medical Student Association, and the Student National Medical Association, even the Muslim Student Association. Recently, we've adopted the Medical Spanish Pathway Program of Distinction. Now, this is in its infancy stage. Thank you, Dave. This is in its infancy stage, but it's our goal to build a national model so other schools will follow us in our efforts to bring this initiative forward. Coming down the pipeline is what? Diversity and Inclusion Mentoring and Networking Program. Informal mentoring. There's something to be said about placing a student or a faculty member or a staff member, for that fact, in a room with someone else where they can speak freely about the questions they have to promote their careers and next steps forward. Also, the International Medical Student Association. Now, this initiative is being built out not only by our office, but partnering with our international students. We're recruiting in this program the MD, MPH, and PhD programs. Exciting stuff. We're working on a Native American Pathways program. And if you haven't seen the emails by now, and I'm sure you all saw them today, as we're launching the Med Safe Zone LBGTI plus allies training program, which is open to all faculty and students of the Geisel community. All right? This is an effort for us to what? Create a welcoming environment for our LGBTQ persons on campus. So we'll be looking at health disparities, we'll be looking at culture, we'll be looking at terminology. So please, 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 this is just the beginning of what we're going to do to try to create an environment of inclusive excellence here on Geisel campus. Will the members of the DICE office please stand up? I just want to give them a shout out. Sean, Myra, Faroch. As we like to say in the DICE office, we are the DICE office. Come roll with us. At this time, I'm going to turn it back over to Dean Compton.
Thank you, Jerome. I am here on behalf of Erica Brown to talk about the next goal, which is to strengthen integration within Geisel, across Dartmouth, and with strategic partners, including Dartmouth Health and our VA in White River Junction. There are two strategic initiatives here. One is to focus on how we can communicate and celebrate our community more effectively. This is the internal communication that I talked about. We have enormous power of academic power here and people power here, and we can improve the way in which we bring people together in teams and celebrate our successes. The second strategic initiative is to identify barriers to collaboration across Geisel and Dartmouth, our broader Dartmouth communities, and invest in programs and infrastructure to support improved opportunities for collaboration. We talk about community all the time. That's a phrase almost every single one of us uses, and we see an opportunity here for investment to improve the way that we can come together and support programs across our broader community. So that's a major goal for us here, and again, I'm representing Erica's out of town right now, and I'm representing her to share this with you. Next, I will introduce, who's the next one? Steve Bernstein, next.
Thanks, Dwayne. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm here to talk to you about the research goal, and I'm delighted to do that. So as it says, we're looking to drive growth in research, foster an environment of scientific inquiry, innovation, and scholarship. There are four pillars to this. And I also want to add that when we do have my counterpart, the Senior Associate Dean for Foundational Research, who I very much look forward to working with, that person and I will be partners in this endeavor, with me representing the clinical side of the research operation here. First, to articulate and adopt a disciplined approach to evaluating and prioritizing investment into research areas. This is really a critical thing for any research-intensive institution to do. It's particularly challenging here and important because of the size of our institution. Our resources are quite good, but they're not obviously unlimited. And we have to think carefully about where we choose to invest, and also what strategies we use to decide where to invest strategically in research. I'm talking about which research programs we choose to have strength in, because we're not going to be able to have strength across the board in everything. But what we do, we need to do it extraordinarily well, as we do in many areas already. Some of this happens organically. You may recruit somebody from another institution who has a lab, and that person brings people with them, and that becomes a nucleus for additional recruitment. Some of it you might do deliberately. You might look around and say, oh, this person over there has a lab, she's productive, and this guy in another department is kind of in the same area. Maybe we can introduce them, and they can cook up some projects together and start to bring in some students, and we do that, and maybe we can grow that into a program. And so we will be doing both of those kinds of strategic growth. And this, to be clear, this also cuts across all Geisel departments, both the foundational departments and the clinical departments, also extends into our partners at Thayer and other components of Dartmouth as well, including the White River Junction VA, which has a very good research program. So we will continue to look at opportunities to evaluate and prioritize investment into those areas. The second one, to enable the work of Geisel and the DH communities to create a unified research administration and a structure to serve all faculty and programs. As you know, right now, in effect, we have two grants and contracts entities working side by side, one for the foundational departments at Geisel, one for the clinical departments at Dartmouth Hitchcock or Dartmouth Health. And obviously there's lots of cooperation, and lots of subcontracts go back and forth. But we also know that we need to make it easier for our investigators to work across these institutional lines, whether we're talking about sharing health IT, protected health information from patients, or other kinds of administrative data, being able to access data through the various IT firewalls that we have, submitting grants, et cetera. And we have a number of areas of progress in that already, particularly in the IT space. I won't get into all the details about that, but what I do want to share with you, and I know many of you know this already, we will be submitting an application in January, 2 months now, to NIH, to the National Center for Advancing Translational Sciences, to return a CTSA, a Clinical Translational Science Award, to Dartmouth. If you were here during Synergy, we're looking to return an active, vibrant Synergy to the entire Dartmouth ecosphere. When we do that, that will absolutely provide the administrative structure or superstructure that we're talking about here. So it is my vision, and those of others, that the CTSA will provide that framework for us to create this unified structure. We don't need the CTSA to do it, but it makes it much easier and really provides a common portal for all investigators across Dartmouth. Third, be recognized nationally as a destination where early career scientists acquire skills, mentorship, and career guidance need to accelerate their professional development. We must continually be on the outlook for young talent. We must be a magnet for talent, whether we grow our own, so to speak, through the medical students and the fellows and junior faculty who come here to train, or whether we recruit more advanced, more senior people, mid-career, associate professors, full professors, et cetera, to come here with their research programs. In fact, we have to do both, of course, and we have been doing that, and we need to do more of that. One of the areas, for example, of where we're looking to explore is cooperation between continued cooperation between clinical departments and foundational departments in putting together recruitment packages, for example, so we can bring in somebody irrespective of whatever kind of department they're going to be in. And resources have been further constrained by the pandemic. I think we all know that it hasn't been easy to do, but nonetheless, even in the past year, we have recruited successfully a number of high-powered people working both at the bench and in dry lab space to come to both foundational and clinical departments here. We need to do more of that. I have a particular interest in providing additional resources to train and protect our young emerging scholars at the fellow level, at the instructor level, at the assistant professor level, and even at the research scientist level. Again, Synergy will give us additional resources to do that, but we can't wait for Synergy. We need to move forward on that now. Dwayne and I have been discussing this for quite some time, and there will be many more programs rolling out in that space. Lastly, this sounds like Star Trek to me a little bit. We're going to boldly pursue new funding streams and make traditional and team science easier and promote curiosity-driven research. This is always a challenge in academic medicine. NIH's budget has gone up a little bit in recent years, but if you look at it in inflation-adjusted dollars, hasn't changed very much for a while. Nonetheless, we continue to pursue NIH grants aggressively. There's a tremendous amount of room in the clinical departments to grow our portfolio of that. One wonderful example will be the new COBRI Center that we're expecting over at DH, led by Sandra Wong and Mark Krieger. We happen to have, fortuitously, a very nice portfolio of PCORI research here at Patient-Centered Outcomes Research Institute. I didn't expect that when I got here, and that is absolutely something that happened organically. That's not an easy dollar to get. We have, I think, about half a dozen PCORI grants centered here. That's extraordinary. So PCORI's been very good to us. We've been very good to PCORI. We'll continue to pursue that. There are other opportunities as well at the VA. We can do better there. Department of Defense, DOD, certainly, and industry support as well. We will continue to pursue that. So anyway, additional activities to be coming down the pike in that. And thank you. Now my next, Amber, Dr. Barnato.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Again, my name is Amber Barnato. I'm the director of the Dartmouth Institute for Health Policy and Clinical Practice. I was a member of the steering committee for the strategic planning process, and so the group of us were essentially receiving information that was coming from the different work groups. And so I was involved in setting and wordsmithing some of these particular goals. This goal itself is more of a cross-cutting goal. It is to advance health equity and well-being through policy, education, and community engagement. And again, reminding everybody that our mission at Geisel is to address the world's health problems. And I think that it came up very, very organically in all of the different work groups that health equity is one of the most significant challenges facing us globally. And I think one of the things that was interesting about this particular goal is that various times people were drawn to insert health and health equity in the goal. And it came in, and it was pulled out, and it came in, it was pulled out. And I think one of the things that people were struggling with is they were thinking like, well, aren't we trying to advance health? I mean, not just health equity. But it becomes a tautology because, of course, if you're basically not paying attention to equity and you're just advancing health, you can increase the average health of a population while also increasing health inequities, right? If the majority of the population is made up of people who are middle and high income, and they experience a substantial increase in their health with an intervention, it might look like the entire population improved on average, but you might look at the subgroups and see that overall, the lower income group did not increase in their well-being, and you end up with a bigger gap than before. So you've made an investment that got the rich richer and the poor poorer, basically in sort of that proverbial way, which is why we ended up really centering health equity as an issue, because if you're improving health equity, ideally you're either bringing people up who are at a disadvantage or you're bringing everybody up. And you can never go wrong when you're doing that. We have 3 strategic initiatives. One is to develop and implement programs and systems that will enhance the health and well-being of our students, faculty, and staff. This is a delightful one because I think one of the things that we were doing a lot with our goals is we were thinking about, on the one hand, our community, advancing our community, diversity, but then we were sort of thinking about how we're going to change the world, advance health equity, improve health. But we started thinking about, well, wait, what about the well-being of our community? Our community cannot do its good work to advance health equity globally unless we feel like we can sustain ourselves. So a very wise person in the process made sure to include this as a part of this strategic initiative, which again makes it very cross-cutting and connects with the other aspects of the goals. The second one is to launch curricular enhancements to ensure that our learners will be positive change agents in their future professional roles to promote health equity, and wellness in the communities that they serve. And so again, this is going to be that line, that through line with our education. And then in the strategic initiative related to research, we're going to continue to support and increase investment in Geisel faculty research in the domains of health equity and the social and political drivers of health. So our next champion, I see both Sonia and Craig here. Are you guys coming up together? Terrific.
Good afternoon. I am delighted to be here with my colleague, Dr. Craig Westling. We are representing the Education Working Group today. We're really excited to provide this overview to you all. And I'd like to start by thanking our Education Working Group. We engaged them through a long period, multiple Zoom meetings, an education retreat that we held last spring, to really draw out engagement from across our community of educators and learners. And that group represented learners, staff, faculty from across our program. So I just want to recognize all the effort that they put in, and I really do hope that what we're presenting today represents authentically the intent of what they were hoping that we would do. All right, so my screen here is really small, wow. So the strategic goal in the domain of education is to diversify and enhance programs and initiatives that support interprofessional collaboration and professional development. And I hope that in reading this resonates with you all. This is something that our community, from learners to staff to faculty, have been asking about. I don't think there are very many meetings or gatherings that we join where this doesn't come up. We have an incredible community here that represents a diverse group of learners who are interested in learning together and being part of a new generation of a workforce that tackles the problems in health and research that face us. So there are 5 strategic initiatives. I will summarize them very briefly, and then Craig will walk through what we think is a very reasonable and intentional stepwise process for working through to make these become a reality. So the first is to develop a leadership and administrative infrastructure that supports interdisciplinary learning and fosters interprofessional collaboration across our educational programs. We would like to bring our teams, our students, our supports together in the way that intentionally supports and builds community and helps our learners to learn together. And the first part of that is bringing our structures together to provide equity in terms of those supports. The second initiative is to create opportunities for intentional collaboration across our existing educational programs and to create new interprofessional programming opportunities and health sciences degrees through our internal and external partnerships. We have an incredible community here at Geisel, at Dartmouth, at DH. Not only that, we have opportunities to partner with organizations, colleges, and partners throughout the state and beyond to really expand the experiences of our learners. The third is to invest in and develop an innovative and collaborative career development and advising opportunities for our learners across our degree programs. And what this is an intentional investment in the professional development and the trajectory of our learners, thinking about them from the beginning and how we can help to position them well to succeed and to be leaders in their careers. In our health professions programs, moving on to strategic initiative number 4, we would like to enhance and expand programs and curricula that will address healthcare shortages and contribute to health equity for diverse patient populations. And this is one of those bridging initiatives that you've heard about. and was a very passionately discussed principle throughout all of our conversations. And then finally, strategic initiative number 5, improve the affordability of our educational programs. We need to be able to recruit, train, and invest in talented learners who will positively impact diversity, inclusion, and belonging with a big B across our health professions workforce. And I think this is another theme that you've heard about today, which is crossing multiple domains and a high priority for us. So this is a lot. As Dean Compton mentioned, taking a look at this, the first question we have is, how do we make this work? How do we move forward and make this a reality? So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Westling, and he will share a framework for how we think we can move this forward.
Thank you, Sonia. As if we have a magic wand here. So what we wanted to do is illustrate how we're thinking about just approaching these challenges in this work and these opportunities. And so what you see here is meant to illustrate, while we can begin planning in parallel for all of these goals, that fundamentally we need to start with establishing a really strong foundation upon which we can improve our current programs and then add or grow. We could add new programs, we could grow our current programs. And so that's what this is meant to illustrate. It's like where we're going to start, make sure we're strong, then we grow from there. And Sonia mentioned how many of these goals related to education cross other themes, and you just hear that over and over again. And one of the things that we need to work on is breaking down those barriers to integration within Geisel and within larger Dartmouth community. And so part of the structure that we want to build will facilitate that communication, that integration, that diversity of thought. Anything to add to that? All right, Dean Compton, it's all yours. Wes, it's all yours.
All right. Well, I can't see that, but I'll try to take a look at it on here. So the next goal is to catalyze strategic growth with a new state-of-the-art facility for our medical school. And I have to say, having been here 8 years and probably now one of the more senior members of the Dean's office in terms of tenure, this is probably the most exciting goal, at least I've seen, and feel some sense of personal responsibility for our medical school. As many of you know, our facilities on the Hanover campus are 50 to 60 years old and are nearing the end, or in some cases at the end of their useful life. In addition, we're spending an increasing amount of money each year investing in these buildings just to maintain a baseline level of functionality for our research and education programs. The outstanding work, the excellence that occurs, we are not doing it justice with the facilities that we have. And as Dwayne said before, we now have the ability to bring resources to bear to actually change the environment that we work and that we operate in. Beyond their age, our facilities are also nearing their capacity. So we are running out of space to host our research programs. If we are successful in the recruits that we've committed to and planned over the near future, we will run out of space for our biomedical research programs. Our education programs, we've spent a lot of money trying to bring those environments up to contemporary, at least adequate standards for our learners. But we're also taxed with the use of those facilities, and where we're talking about adding new education programs and new interprofessional education, we actually don't have the space to do that. To address this, and this came out early throughout the strategic planning process as we started to think about how are we going to do all of these things, we aspire to build a new multi-purpose building that will serve as a future home for our research, education, and administrative support activities. This is going to be a journey. This will be a multi-year journey. Buildings don't just pop up out of the ground overnight. And to start this, we, in the last month, initiated a request to the trustees of Dartmouth College to secure funding in the fiscal year 2024 that will allow us to begin the planning work for this important effort. We've also begun, and Ben Jorgensen, our Director of Facilities, is leading at least the outreach, an RFP process to engage a master planning facilities consultant to help us understand and assess our physical needs, as well as what's the type and what's the size of building that we might create to house and best support our missions. As part of this work, and I think this is incredibly important, this isn't simply going to be the facilities group in the dean's office designing a building. We're going to continue to engage this community, as we have throughout the strategic planning process, in helping envision what does this new facility look like? Which programs, which activities are best housed in this facility? And we're really looking for, and will seek, and you'll have ample opportunity to provide feedback and recommendations for what you think might be best. Again, this is going to be a journey. I'm really, really excited to be part of this. We look forward to working with all of you over the next year and in the years to come in advancing this particular goal. So thank you. And now perhaps the most important for keeping us on track, on time, and on plan, Kim Velson.
All right, thank you. I noticed that you all applauded at the end of the goal, but not for me to walk to the front. It's fine. It's fine. Thank you so much. No, I'm really, really happy to be here today and to be working with a group of people who are actually committed to facilitating this institutional change that we've kind of set before you all. This group is very dedicated. They have engaged with all of the things that I've asked them to do, and I'm a little bit rigid, and they've, fallen in line. So I will be what is it called? The velvet hammer that will be keeping the team moving forward. So my part of this presentation today is to get a little bit more granular with each of you to talk about what the next 9 months or so are going to look like. That's going to be happening in 2 phases. The first phase is the implementation planning phase. So yes, we have our strategic plan all sewn up, but now we need to come up with what are the exact tactics that we're going to be using and what timing are those going to be deployed on. So basically the champions are going to identify who the responsible parties are. So we're going to find out who's responsible for completing the tactics. Budgets will be established, timelines will be established. The implementation work group is going to meet for the first time on November 21st. So that group will come together, and when groups come together, they've got to find their group norms, they've got to have their own storm, and then they start to perform. So we expect that by February or so, we'll have all of the implementation plans together, and then we'll begin what's called initial implementation, and we're calling it that because we're going to be trying some new processes, working through a new meeting cadence, and really figuring out what's going to stick. And so once the project plans are socialized, you will know everything that we know as we know it. What I love about this team is that they're committed to transparency as best as possible. So I just want to encourage everybody to keep your eye on the SharePoint, the strategic plan SharePoint, that will be updated monthly as we receive updates from our champions and responsible parties. Okay, so we're also going to have, what you will be checking on in our SharePoint is our progress towards our key performance indicators. So each of these goals we'll have measures so that we know whether or not we are successful or not successful. We're going to know whether or not we're reaching the point that we meant to reach at the time we meant to reach it. So we'll be finding out exactly how those projects are proceeding as the months pass. And so those new processes will be in the pilot phase. So as we pilot things, as we find things out and figure out what works and what doesn't work, of course, we're going to be as communicative as possible through the process. So the implementation timeline, the highlight there is that there's 2 phases. We've got Phase 1, which is implementation planning, that ends in February, which begins Phase 2, where you're going to find out what those project plans are, what the implementation plan is, probably we'll be able to scope out at least 1 year ahead. We're probably going to be looking at least 1 year ahead. And then the KPI tracking is going to begin. So we'll be looking at those key performance indicators. The most important thing that's coming out of today is that we also need for the community to be engaged one more time to find out who our co-champions are going to be. There are 4 goals that you may have noticed did not have a co-champion yet, and you will have the opportunity to nominate some of your colleagues for these positions. So submit your nominations by November 11th. How you're going to do that is there's going to be an email that comes out. We'll probably send the email twice, just in case anyone misses it. There's going to be an email that comes out that will have a link for you to submit a nomination, and you're going to nominate the person and say a little bit about why you believe that person would make a great goal champion. And these are the 4 goals. So I'm going to ask Dwayne to come to the front again to say the final remarks as we all separate. But there was one thing. Oh, for each of you, I just wanted to take a quick, informal survey. How many people think they can see just how their work that they do day to day fits into this strategic plan? I can see how my work fits into the strategic plan. Agree or disagree? Agree. If you agree, please raise your hand. If you disagree and you don't yet see how your work fits into the strategic plan, that's all right. Raise your hand. Okay, great. How many people are excited about the strategic plan? Agree or agree? Yeah, let's see. I'll put up 2 hands for everybody else. All right. I'm very excited about the strategic plan, and I hope you all are too. And I'll turn it over to Dwayne.
Thanks, Kim, and thanks everyone for coming today. We will post all of this on the website on Monday, and we'll blast this out to everyone, so everyone has access to the documents and knows what's going on. So I really appreciate everyone's input into all of this. Thank you for coming today. And we have some refreshments set up, so we will adjourn and enjoy some fellowship, and we can talk more about this. I'm sure there are lots of questions. So thanks everyone for coming.